Okay, guys, so today we're going to talk about some more of our vocab terms and go into detail on a topic that relates to our first discussion question about where things like our t-shirts come from and where my coffee mug came from and how did I get this candle all the way to my desk in Colorado when it started off in Vietnam. So we're going to talk about that today and the bigger consequences of being so connected. Our topic is how countries need one another, how we really depend on each other. So think about it for a second. Have you ever wondered where the cocoa for the chocolate in your Butterfinger or Reese's or Snickers came from? Where the vanilla used to flavor your favorite ice cream started? Or where your favorite t-shirt was made? The answer is these products are made all over the world. They come from countries all over the world. We don't just buy things that are made in the United States simply because we live here. So different places all over the world are connected through the global trade of different goods, like those cocoa beans for your chocolate that make up your Butterfinger or your Reese's or your Snickers, like the vanilla that helps make your ice cream, like the cotton and the wool that help make your favorite t-shirt or your favorite clothes. Those materials come from all over the world. And what we call this is globalization. Globalization is the process of increasing the connectivity and interdependence of the world's economies. Okay, so when we put that in terms that we can understand, we think of globalization as being this process that increases how connected and how much we rely on each other in order to sell our goods and services and in order to buy goods and services. In order to be able to sell a t-shirt or to buy our Butterfinger bar, we have to rely on other countries to provide those materials. What we're going to talk about today is the how and the why of globalization. And two very important terms that we need to introduce are imports and exports. Imports are when you buy goods or services from a foreign country. To help me remember imports, I always think imports sounds like imports, right? So when I think of imports, I think of bringing something in. And that's what you're doing. If the US buys seafood from China, they're importing that seafood from China. Exports are selling goods or services to a foreign country. And when I think of ex, I think of like ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, excommunicate, right? You're kind of getting rid of something or taking it out of your little circle. So when you're exporting something, you are selling something to a service, you're selling goods or services to a foreign country. You're getting rid of something and giving it to somebody else. So for example, think about how in the US, when we go to the grocery store, we can pretty much always buy fresh fruits and veggies, seafood, and coffee. But think about what it takes to grow fresh fruits and veggies, coffee, and then to have access to seafood. Fresh fruits and veggies require the right soil, light, water, and warmer weather, usually. Seafood requires being near a water source, like an ocean, lake, or river. And then to grow coffee, you need a subtropical climate, which is almost like a rainforest. In the US, you guys know that our weather and our climate is not always like that. So what we have to do is rely on other places for these products. Therefore, we import, right? We bring in 28% of our fruits and veggies from Mexico. We get 19% from Guatemala, 17% from Costa Rica, and 36% from somewhere else. So you can see that the majority of the fruits and vegetables we eat are not actually grown in the United States. Likewise, We get and import most of our seafood from places like China, Canada, and Vietnam. Take a minute and locate China. It's that brown country. Locate Canada, that blue country. And locate Vietnam. It's right underneath China, that dark blue, bluish green. Very small. What type of resource are all of those places next to? If you said water, you're absolutely right. That's why we import a lot of our seafood from places like that, because they're close to water. They have access to more seafood than we might in the United States. Think about coffee. Your parents probably drink coffee. Maybe you drink coffee. I know teachers love coffee, but coffee takes a subtropical or rainforest climate, right? That's not really prevalent. It doesn't exist in a lot of places in the United States. So, in order to have coffee all the time, the US has to import coffee from places like Brazil, Vietnam, and Germany because those areas have better climates that support growing coffee. So, we've talked about the imports that the US brings in. Let's talk about the flip side of this. This means that Mexico, Guatemala, and Costa Rica export fruits and veggies to the United States. They sell fruits and veggies to other countries. This means that China, Canada, and Vietnam export a lot of their seafood to the USA. This means that Brazil, Vietnam, and Germany export a lot of their coffee to the United States. So, whereas we are importing those goods, the countries who give those goods to us are exporting those goods. So, review that again. Import is when a country is bringing in goods or services from somewhere else. Take a minute and think about a country that we import goods from. All right, now look at export. When a country is selling goods or services to somewhere else, think about a country that exports goods to the United States. Chances are you thought of the same country. It just depends on the relationship. Is that country bringing the product in, or are they exporting it? Are they selling it out? Okay. So we just talked about our how globalization exists, and this all leads to our why. Why do we have globalization? Why can't the US just grow all of our own products? And this leads to our last vocabulary term for this lesson, and that is interdependency. Interdependency is when two or more people or things rely on each other. Think about taking off that word inter, right? And then you're just left with dependency. It sounds like depend. When you depend on somebody, you rely on somebody. So, with globalization, we have interdependency. To put this in more common terms, think about our example. Without Brazil, Germany, and Vietnam having a climate that grows coffee so well, without China, Vietnam, and Canada having so much access to water, and without Mexico, Guatemala, and Costa Rica having the perfect weather to grow fruits and veggies, the United States wouldn't have those products year round. At the same time, if the United States did not buy coffee from Brazil, Germany, or Vietnam, if the United States didn't buy seafood from China, Vietnam, and Canada, and if the United States didn't buy fruits and veggies from Mexico, Guatemala, and Costa Rica, those economies would not make as much money. Those countries wouldn't have as much money because we wouldn't be buying things from them. So, we depend on each other, right? It's this interdependent relationship of when we buy goods from these places, they get money. When they get money, we get those goods. We get to have coffee and seafood and fruits and veggies year round when we wouldn't have that otherwise. So to sum it all up, we depend on / need each other to survive with the way that our world works right now. And that's why economics in part is so important to study and look at, is because we really look at those things and depend on other countries in order to survive, right? Without economics, we wouldn't be able to have our coffee in the morning. Without economics, we might be in debt and not have as much money as we have. Without economics, we can't have our seafood, right? So there's more examples, but economics really relates to those basic goods and services that we use in order to survive and be healthy.